and become aware of the light? Or would you go from the other way around and you see the light? But would the two lights would be the same? And in that process, would you be able to confirm your existence as you have moved from one to another and you become what we call aware of your own existence? In a way, as I said in one of the teachings, is the apple which calls you to eat me and you think I eat it because I need it. But in reality, is the soul which brings you to the point that you manifest yourself and live the life. Ask yourself why I'm in this position and in this place, as why my soul has brought me to this point. That what is the purpose of my life and what is the objective of reaching this point in creation. In so many ways, mankind needs to become a little bit more aware of his own existence. Mankind needs to become very much aware of understanding of the totality. How do we join in when we cannot understand what is the playground? How can we enjoy when we don't see we are going to be as part of? We got to be aware of the totality. We got to be aware of what we want to be. In so many ways, what is our destiny? And what is our destiny? And why are we born in this time, this place, this position? To serve what? To bring what into the dimension of the creation? In so many ways, mankind needs to become kind to himself. Mankind needs to understand what kind of a man he wants to manifest himself in the dimension. And then understand the purpose of the life. Understand the purpose of why we are here at this position and time. And what have we added and what is our purpose to add to in what is to come. Dimension of physicality is totally irrelevant. That's the dimension of the soul which counts. The dimension of the free fields, which in its interaction with the field of the planet leads to manifestation of your physicality. As every soul has different strength and combination, it creates an interaction with the field of the earth, which is self-dynamic and changing, a new man, a new being, according to the field of strength. The soul of an ant, in interaction with the field of the earth, creates that ant. Because the size, the position, and the purpose fits the total soul of the existence of the totality of all the souls within this planet. And the soul of the man, which is created within the womb of the mother, decides in interaction with all the field forces which created the soul of the mother and the father to lead to manifestation of the what we call the field of the soul that leads to the interaction in the womb of the mother to the field of the physicality and manifestation of physicality. In so many ways, the way we take a brush and we mix it in different colors and paints, and we draw on a canvas and we create a picture. In the coming time, we'll show you that we can do the same with the fields and lead to creation of whatever we need on the canvas of the life of the universe. In so many ways, mankind, with the gain of the new knowledge, should be able to draw the environment that that canvas needs to be shown and to be seen. In time to come, we will change a lot of things. As I said, As we walk away from the dimension of physicality, the interaction of the field forces of the universe, in interaction with the soul of the man, dictates the manifestation and the point of manifestation of the man. In time to come, and in the teachings to come, I'll explain these in more detail. I'll bring you to see, to face with the strength of the soul of yourself, which means we give the dimension of physicality what we call the knowledge, the know-how, and the strength of the soul. I wonder how many of you will create that soul. That interaction with your own soul will become one. And would there be a dimension of physicality for you to exist? You have to understand you cannot prejudice. You cannot be prejudiced at all. If you mix a dough with a given measure, with a certain amount of flour and the exact amount of the butter and the salt and the sugar, you always more or less consistently get the same. So this time the dough is the field of existence of your existence. And we give you the dough. We give you all the ingredients. Would you dare to mix it to see your soul? And then would you be able to see it as you become part of it? You bring your own self to the dimension of no physicality. In so many ways, mankind is reaching the point that he can become that point. He can become the center of the light. He can become the source, part of the source, in a way to become part of the creator, as we saw with the water. As it flew in and it came back out, it created different mirage of the physicality. Many of you will have problem with this. Many of you will commit suicide in the dimension of the soul, as you will not accept in the dimension of physicality. When we call it a suicide, is not to take life, is in the way not to accept the condition of the field forces, which leads to your creation dimension of physicality. Maybe today's teaching is too deep for many of you to understand. Maybe today's teaching opens many of you, your eyes or your intellect, to understand the process of the creation. Maybe this is what we call to introduce to you the new way of teaching. Not with the machines, but how you control the strength of the fields of your physicality in the soul of the physicality to allow the soul of the man to extend beyond, to become that proton and what it was, electron covering the proton. In a way, when we look at the nuclear physics and we see that bright spot rotating around the proton, if we increase its speed, if we increase its agility in conformation of interaction with the field of the center of proton, it will become so fast that it creates a light around the proton, even the proton is inside. And that light, in the dimension of we accepting it, becomes us in a physical dimension. This is what it is. And this is how the physicality takes over and hides the soul of the man within it. We create too many souls. We create too many miniature souls. We call it the cells that in their souls blind us to see the proton inside. We camouflage because we interact with the fields of this planet, and in a way we collaborate to hide the soul in the dimension of the physicality. Because if you look at the structure of the body of the man, it's collection of the fields, collection of souls, that these souls are so densely packed that they have managed to hide the soul of the man itself within it, which is the more powerful. Go back to the teaching of last week, where I said in a very simple way, where I drew what I call electron and a proton. If you remember, in a cluster of cells, and I explained the position of the electron, and I said the furthest connected to the center, the one which is more in the center. Now you understand maybe how your physicality has taken these neutrons, these cell centers, to cover the totality of the soul of the man. As we have created so many of them around the soul itself, that it has covered the man in the dimension of physicality. But in essence, the soul of the man, the creator, is within the center. We have, in a way, colluded with the field forces of the environment to create and manifest many, many little things to blind ourselves to the dimension of his existence in the center of the body of man. And how can we reverse the position that in one interaction, in one process, the soul of the man can expand beyond the boundary and cover the soul of the man, the physicality of the man, and in that process still exist. But the biggest question is, would it have this shape within the soul of the man? Or we become one waiting for to be manifested in the future of time and space. This is part of what many of you will have a dilemma with. And in that process, you will understand the totality. What would be the future of mankind? What would be the future of the soul of mankind? Would we create children from the soul than the physicality and allow them to take dimension and love them the same? We know the process. It's for the man to accept. It's for the man to understand the dimension of physicality is not necessarily non-existence of the soul. If you understand this, maybe we ask one more question. And that is, have we become so ignorant and so arrogant that want to see the soul of the Creator that confirms the existence of us? And are we humble enough to become that electron? Then by creation of totality of the fields, we become those cells which we have covered the soul of the Creator within. And that's what exists within us, within the center of our existence. As I said, as a nuclear physicist and the man who's been in the depth of the knowledge of the creation, life becomes very simple. Life becomes very understanding. But as I said, we have a time we have to pass in the dimension of physicality. And in so many ways, this change of the clothes in a coming time will be change of the strength of the cells of the man. That man needs no physical clothes. And then we dictate the dimension of manifestation. And then would be all shine like the lights. And this is how it will come to be. And mankind will become so mature to this point. I hope that we all understand this position. And sooner or later, we stop asking the question, when I see something, when I see my soul, I believe it. This is the Western behavior that I can fool you as long as you cannot see what you believe in. And this has to end. In a way, ask yourself one question. Why my soul has brought me to this point? And what is the purpose of my life? To deliver, to be the provider, to be the one who sustains the environment of the fields of the universe for it to exist. In any case, mankind has a lot of work to do. A lot of understanding. and a lot of what you call soul searching. But remember one thing, it goes back to the beginning of the teaching of today in many ways. You have to be able to control the strength of the field of the soul of physicality through the dimension of operation of its physical dimension to be able to manifest the soul of the man or become aware to see the light of his existence. In so many ways, you don't need to go to a trance, but in so many ways, you need to understand the strength of the field of your own creation. I wonder how many of you have understood the teaching of today and how many of you will change the course of your life because you understood the truth. Which way do you want to live? From the plasma, soul of the creator, to the soul of physicality, in the dimension of the soul of the creator, to the dimension of the soul of physicality. And what kind of light would you create in both dimensions? Would it be like the blood of the man, which when goes out is brighter, and one which is consumed, his energy come back slightly darker? Is that the behavior of the conversion of the fields into the dimension of physicality in the world of the creation for the man too? Which way it shine lighter and brighter? And what would do with that as it gives life to the others in the dimension of physicality? Today's teaching is very heavy if you understand, and it's very light if you understood. But in time, many of the citizens of this planet and beyond will understand today's teaching, and it become a path for them to find a solution and salvation for the operation of their souls in the dimension of the creation. We go through a break and we come back. And I hope the questions we get is more mature in the dimension of the soul of the man, not about the Ganses and the friendly dog down the road. It's time to mature, and it's time to extend the knowledge beyond the dimension of physicality. And this is what the purpose of the teachings is and shall be. Are we ready to go on the break? Thank you very much.
Okay, just a second. There we go. We've got a couple of hands up here now. So let's go ahead with Ed first. Then we have Brett after that.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Keshe, the question I've had during your teaching today that keeps coming to my mind is, in our existence at the soul level, is our confirmation of existence at the emotional level? Is that our experience?
Could be partial. But in a way, emotion is the where we get the confirmation of the interaction between the soul of physicality and the soul of. But the question for many of us will rise is that, do I feel this emotion with the soul of physicality or through the interaction of the soul of physicality with soul of the man? Or do I feel this emotion within the soul of? Because, as he said, I made man in the image of myself. So there is an emotion inside the soul of the man that manifests itself in the physicality of the man too. But we have to become aware of which one.
So is this
Which emotion? And as I said in the teachings before, we introduced you many new emotions that in the dimension of physicality doesn't exist. In the dimension of physicality, it's impossible to exist because the field of strength doesn't exist in that level in the matter state. even though we are in a Gans state within. In a way, we can explain it in a simple way, which is this is the soul of man. This is the physicality of man. And this is the matter state where the man confirms existence. Is the dimension of physicality a transition time, where this is the source and this is the matter state? And then it comes to understand in which strength does the man interact, and at which point the physicality manifests itself. And this will be a part of the answer we have to have if we become the traveler of the space, because this environment dictates the position of the soul in the matter state and the time of the transition from the soul to physicality. Then maybe we have to ask, is the emotion is here or in this? Because we feel the emotion of the soul in a different way. It's instantaneous, does not wait. It responds immediately, and you become aware of it. And in so many ways, the closer you become to the soul, the more instantaneous becomes the interaction and response. Any other question?
So may I continue just a bit?
Yep.
So in a way, it comes to a new, the emotions that you're speaking of are something we may have never experienced in our physicality, and it's going to come down to our trust or acceptance of these new experiences that we have.
Possibly. Most probably, yes. And possibly, maybe. And in the dimension of physicality, the emotions and the strength of the emotion is very much different than the emotion and the strength of the soul of man. And in time, we'll come to understand that much easier in the coming time as we get more and more familiar with our own structure.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. If we could hear from Brett next.
Mr. Keshe, how are you, my friend?
Well, it's nice to see you still alive.
Yes. I did an experiment a wee whiles back, and I manifested little sparkles in between a funnel. And when I took my balls away, it manifested into an actual thing. So you could see the funnel, you could see the sparks running within it. But when I took my empty balls away, it manifested into carbon or some sort of carbon. It's not attractive to a magnet. Isn't this what you're talking about? In what you were talking about before with your book 1, book 2, and book 3, because everything that I understand is in pages 19 to 21 of book 1. And
So you got all the pages to read.
Yes, I got a lot of pages to go. I do. And this is the beauty of it. But my question is, when you see all the little sparkles going up through the funnel, when is a good time to tap into it? When you see the sparkles before, or after you take your empty balls away from, now I'm only talking about a 2-cup, but the manifestation of the carbon came up in a funnel form. So
I don't understand exactly what you're talking about, unless you can show us in pictures.
Rick has a picture of it that I sent him. If he can bring that forward, otherwise I can send it to him again. But one has to understand that when I took away the 3 carriers, it manifested, boom, it was like a carbon lattice.
If you create energies or fields in motion, and you can bring them to the point that in respect to their environment, they can interact and release or become in unison partially with the environmental field forces, you lead to creation of matter. So the sparks you speak about, if it is there, and then it becomes like a carbon or whatever, this means that you have managed to transfer energy fields in interaction with the environment to the matter state. This is partially what we do in enhancement units, but we have a control over it to what material to be created and how to be created. In a way, if in the coming up time, you will see it because it's now developed, is in the lab, is that if you go to, let's say, moon, and you want to produce gold, but you don't have the, what we call the strength field or whatever it is, or you lost the information somewhere, we can transmit for you from Earth to moon that in interaction with our fields transferred to you instantaneously, you can produce that material. Because we can create that condition. It's the line of interaction and communication. But would the gold, which you have yellow here, in the open atmosphere of the moon, will be still the yellow you know? Or would you have a different color? And so in converting energy into matter is something which gradually many of you will do. And one of the main topics of the work in the work within the space agencies is this. Because the first things we have to achieve in the upcoming space technology developments is to be able to show that we can produce the materials as we need, that in that extension, a lot of things will change in the space technology. No food, no water, no materials. We can plan excursions to build buildings on the Mars and Moon and beyond as we produce the materials which fits the environment and can absorb the fields of the environment. Exposure to cosmic rays on Moon is very much different than on Earth because it's not there as such, the atmospheric condition. So putting a brick or putting a aluminum framework where constantly absorbs high level of cosmic rays is no good. Do we need to come up with a composite new materials, new dimensions to be able to exist in the new conditions. These are all part of what we experience and we know. And we have shown this unknowingly, but knowingly past year. I have spoken about it, and is partially we can even within the structure release plasmatic fields that within the ear of the man becomes noise, sound, and everything else, and nobody else can hear it. Now the technological achievement is that far. It does not matter how deep you're in earth or you're hiding in mind. So you can produce. Anyone gradually, that's why we are teaching. It's not just we are here, only one can do it. You knowledge seekers, as you experiment more, you develop more knowledge and know-how, you should all be doing. This is not a one-man show. This is all-man show. That all of you should be able to do what we teach. And gradually, one by one of you will follow. The sparks become the carbon, the sparks become gold, the sparks becomes water. It depends how you have created the composition of interaction of the field. Any other question?
I was trying to look for the pictures. I've got some pictures from Brett. I'm not sure which ones you mean, Brett, that show sparks or whatever. Do you want me to show those, or are we done with that topic?
We're done with it.
Okay.
Maybe.
Let's move along here. We've got, get back to my participants list here. Okay, we do have some questions in the Q&A that we should deal with. There's a question regarding salt, the proportions of salt and water in reactors. From Tulia via Liliana. So it's about the amount of salt in the reactors to produce GANs influences the power of the fields. What is the reason for the different proportions of salt and water in the reactors for the life cup and the zinc, copper, and iron GANs reactors? There's information with different proportions. What is the reason? So the basic question is, what is the role of the salt to water ratio in the reactors to produce GANs?
The salt is the balancer, is what dictates the environment allows to be created in the water. In a way, when you're looking at the whole thing, maybe as a knowledge seeker the wrong way. You have the container. You put your water in. You have your nanomaterial. And you have your cup. Then you have the residuals of salt. Whatever it is. Any kind of salt. These salts here are not in a matter state anymore. They are in the environment of the magnetic field of nanomaterial. So the behavior is not a salt, it's creating gravitational field centers that in the interaction with the balance of the fields of the two plates leads to creation or creation of manifestation of the new fields you call the Ganses. The absorption of the what we call different salts or acidic condition, which is again is alkaline based on the weaker strength or the higher strength you look at, then you find out that the salts in so many ways are not in the magnetic field condition. They are, I mean, in the normal condition, they're in a magnetic field condition because, as I said, when you look at the structure, you put, but in fact, what you have is this combination of the field, the balance of it, because the Cl here interacts with the hydrogen and the water and creates acidic condition. It's not all pure alkaline or creation of gravity. And when the field balances between all this is left is what you get, the CO2, which to itself comes from the interaction of the field of the water, where the NaCl itself has separated ClH, which has taken the chlor with the hydrogen to make it the CO2 release. But these are all in a field strength, not in a matter state strength. And this is what most of the knowledge seekers don't understand. And they look at it, it is alkaline, yes, we create an alkaline condition. But because you're in a water environment, you always need the creation of CO2 through the process, where the freedom of the O comes the interaction of the chlor with the hydrogen in the water. Then what you really look at is very much ClNA. This is how it breaks and sustains itself. But we don't look at it in the matter state, look at the gravitational field strength on top of each other, superimposed. So the salt is creation of the gravity in how much fields it will create and how much fields it will give to create that condition of the balance. It gives the energy equal to the amount of the hydrogen to be able to create that CHL, and by it to release the fields of the oxygen, which all are in a plasmatic condition. So the amount of salt percentage all dictates what will be available in this zone. You don't look at it in a matter state. You look at it at the what we call plasmatic state. Your salt is not in the matter state, water and salt. That nano plate has changed the new environment. You're in a new condition. You're in a new plasmatic field condition. Any other question?
Mr. Keshe, you had mentioned before that the salt percentage was increased to like 15% for the 1 cup, 1 life as part of, it was an emergency situation in order to make the process happen faster or produce more Gans in a faster way for that particular situation. Is that correct? And that normally you use maybe a little less salt percentage?
Yes, yes, we do. Depends what current you put through, depends what field strength you put through, all dictates, depends on the environment. You'll find out, as we said before, you create more CO2s if you're in the, what you call, city area, because there is more of it available. And the availability of more of it allows you to produce much more CO2. But if you try to produce copper oxide you have a problem if you go on the slow case. If you are in the middle of the field somewhere or in the middle of desert, you have a problem creating CO2 as much. The salts will then dictate how much you can change it to speed up the creation of the field. You play with the salt content salinity to dictate the speed of the production in respect to the availability of the material in the environment. This is what your heart does. This is what your body does. This is how you create continuous salinity of given strength in your limbs, that the interaction of the blood and the current which comes through the nervous system will dictate the production of the Gans, which could be the cell of the body of the man in the toe or in his heart. This is why we have the combination of different salts and different field strength, and then on top of it, what it creates the interaction of two, we call it emotion.
Okay, we have a couple of hands up here, Mr. Keshe Wallison, and followed by Bernie.
Altera nesse funcionamento correto da caneta.
Okay, so his question is about the teaching that you gave first about the pen. So it was said long time ago that the quantity of turns that you have in your coil to make the coil for the pen and the diameter change the behavior of the pen. So he's saying that a lot of people are making this, so most probably a lot of them are not doing correctly, maybe because they don't know about this change. So he would like to know more about this. If the diameter and the turns of the coils can make a change in the effectiveness and the pen, and what is this change that can happen by the diameter and the turns?
The diameter, the thicker diameter gives you more what we call nanocoated area, more powerful field or more surface in the interaction of the field. The turn gives you more combination of the fields available. When you look at a coil, or you look at the coil different way, this coil has less narrow field area than this one due to the surface area. But this one has less combination of fields interacting with each other, where here you have more combination of fields. So here you have possibly, let's say, 2, here you have 4 combination of fields, because here it's only this with this, where here is this with this, with this, with this, or this with this minus this one and this one. Or you have a field which could be these 3, where this one balances out. So when you have more turns, each one of these is different magnetic gravitational field strength. So you interact with more fields. And if you use it for a paint, this might be good for a small touch paint, but this will be good for a needle paint or a burn paint. You might not find this working as good in paint as does this one, because the paint of a burn is a multitude layers or more cells. That's what the difference is. With this one, you create more surface, extending the power. Next question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. We have Bernie here, who's had several questions in the Q&A. So perhaps he can have a chance to ask his questions here now. Bernie, can you go ahead?
Hello.
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, thank you.
If you
I
could
have
say where you're from first as well, thank you.
from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Sorry, I'm just trying to read through my questions that I wrote. When Mr. Keshe refers to the field strengths of specific elements, is that what others call like the resonant frequency and vibration?
Can you repeat that?
So for specific elements, their field strength, when you're talking about like transmuting them or producing them in the electrolysis cold fusion reaction, is it
We don't
like
have
the
any of these. We don't have a cold fusion. We are in a different field of knowledge.
Okay.
In a field of the Keshe Foundation, understanding the work of plasma, fusion is a dream which will never come true. So it doesn't exist.
Okay.
You amalgamate fields, but you cannot create atomic, what we call fusion as you talk about, or catalyst. That's in the world of physics and chemistry. In the world of plasma, you decide a portion of the fields, and that portion gives you the material or the condition you want. Totally different ballgame. That's all fallacy and theory, which is accepted because we couldn't understand it. Now we understand it, we know fusion is possible.
So you're talking then about standing waves of the fields coming out of plasma, yes?
Can you repeat?
So I'm not talking about like fusion as in the nuclear world of fusion. I'm referring to what you're saying of bringing matter out of the plasma field state. And that
we don't bring matter out of it. We create a condition that the interaction of the fields create manifestation. Totally different.
Okay.
This is, that's why we said it's a mist, and then you create a condition that becomes that drop. The environment, interaction of the fields of the environment leads to the condition of manifestation.
Okay, thank you. One more question is, with the space technology, is it simply astral projection of the consciousness, or do you create a physical plasma field like a plasma orb or a ball lightning, for instance?
Don't understand. Can you explain more?
The plasma technology behind the propulsion of your units.
We do not propel, we find position. And in the plasma technology, we tune to the field of and gravitational field of. Propulsion is when you bend something to propel yourself. We don't propel. We find a position in a strength in respect to each other.
That makes absolute sense. Thank you. I appreciate that and understand the different dynamic between the two. Thank you.
In the world of space technology, in the past or up to now, we rely on extending, increasing field forces to find as creating motion. We follow Newton's laws. In the world of plasma, we do not have such a position. We follow the strength of the field and interaction between the fields. And this is important to understand. Propulsion is matter state condition, a matter use, where plasma technology and space technology is positioning in interaction of fields. There is no such thing as propulsion in plasma technology. Actually, NASA does. NASA has got a team working on what we call propulsion plasma reactors, which are hoping will be ready by 2030. They propose them to moon within 4 hours. You know, the guy who's heading this operation is one of the most frequent travelers, pilots of shuttle technology. He's from South America. And now he's been put to head the what we call the propulsion in plasma technology of the NASA. And when you speak to him, he's very clear. He says, I'm here just because I've flown too many times. I have no clue what they want me to do. In a way, what do you create? Why do you need to burn a plasma? Then you can create a plasma, which is the fields, and you interact, and it attracts you to, or it, in a way, position you into magnetic field strength balance in respect to the environment. We're hoping very soon to be able to show a lot of these things and be able to see man, to understand it. Because when you create these fields, some of these fields interacts with the body of the man, and we find positioning in respect to it and how we do it. When I explained this many times, if you've been around the foundation long enough, when the fields travel through the plasma reactors, in interaction with the body of the man, they create a physical interaction. They run like a pulse, and they create themselves invisible atmosphere. And I still do tests sometimes. Some of the knowledge seekers who work with us, when they work near these new plasma combinations, they feel changes even in their digestion system working, or feel it in their stomach. I used to call it the Tickle Factor in Iran when we used to do the flight test, because when it hits to touch the body, you bend into it. It looks like somebody trying to tickle it. And we see this quite a lot. If you, the miniature version of this is, if you put your hand in some of the ganses you make, depending on the Gans combination, you feel tinkling. You feel that pressure, exchange of the fields of the Gans of the cell of the body of the man with the ganses you're working with. It's very, you can create a balance condition. In the future, we'll show you ganses that, for example, you can put your hand in and you can walk into the snow and pick up the snow. You can walk into the fire and pick up the fire. Because these ganses in combination with the cell of the body of man create a field barrier that the heat transfer or energy in the matter state is impossible. This is in a way how some of the animals we've seen, like shrimps in the depths of the oceans at 700-800 degrees exist, because they live through this principle. So now we're going to show you how to do it and how it's done. In a way, you can get a fireman covered with such a gas and let him go inside a fire building and bring people out. And at the same time, create that protection for them while it's in there. These are the new technologies which emerge out of the Keshe Foundation coming time. This is not something unusual. If a shrimp can live at 700 degrees in depth of the ocean, such a pressure, the knowledge is there. We have to understand it. We have to decide on the field transfer, because the minute you understand that the body of the shrimp is not in the matter state, it is in Gans state, and Gans states in a certain condition are temperature independent, so life is easy anywhere in the universe. I've done this, and in so many ways, it's easy to do. There's a team, I've said that before, if you've been around, a team in Iran, which are working on a new type of fire detectors. They're trying to merge the amalgamated with the Keshe Foundation technology. You don't need a CO2. You just create magnetic fields, plasmatic magnetic fields, which oxygen cannot exist. You don't need to create a water or a blanket. You just need to create a plasma condition. I'll be returning to Iran very soon to work and head Iran space technology into deep space. And this will be part of the work. We'll have a wonderful time to develop this, because then we can fly into the depth of the earth through magma, because we understand how to do it. It's the process of change and the process of bringing a condition that plasma fields accommodate physical temperature, which most of the animals do. And once you understand gases are not in a matter state, then it's very easy to handle such things. This is how you protect yourself in space in respect to the cosmic rays. There is a certain amount of cosmic rays without we cannot live, but there are those who are over the limit which do not need, we create such a shield. Any other question? There's a big problem with the knowledge seekers. By now, most of you should have deciphered the plasmatic fields, environment of a Gans or a matter state, and fields of the matter state. Then it becomes very easy to understand. Keep it as it is, should be no problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much for today. We have other appointments today. They're crucial for the foundation work. We'll meet you next week, next Thursday, and hopefully we'll learn more. As you will understand now, is for you to understand how you can control the field of your blood circulation if you haven't understood the teaching of today. That allows you, by the way you go to sleep, to extend and expand the strength of your soul in a very physical way, as you call it, hyperventilation, to create a condition of emotion or whatever you want. In the plasmatic world, we cannot create a hyperventilation condition, but you can create a condition of a weaker blood circulation magnetic field. And there are ways to do it that it leads to the expansion of the soul of the man. And sometimes you say, I did this and I blanked out. It means you have managed to move your soul beyond the physical boundary that you cannot see the image of your own physicality. And then if you can reach that point, you have reached a milestone in understanding of the man's creation and created point of life, what you call the soul of the man. Do not do hyperventilation because you will not reach there. Understand the field existence and a position and magnetic field interaction. today's teaching is very deep for those of you who understood, and those of you who understood it fully, I have given you the key to be able to release your soul, to be able not to release it, but to control it, to be able to extend the expansion and transmutation of the field. Thank you very much for today. And we'll hopefully meet you next week.
Okay, very good. And thank you, Mr. Keshe. And one other announcement we have is the testimonials group on Monday coming up next week.
Nadszedł czas zmiany, przejścia do prawdziwego działania wszechświata. I nadszedł czas, aby zrozumieć, że używamy stanu materii, by osiągnąć poziom zrozumienia duszy człowieka. Teraz rozumiesz, być może, dlaczego Kreator wysłał swoich posłańców w imię tego, co miałeś. To oni przynoszą uszy, aby można było ich użyć, gdy nadejdzie czas Mesjasza. Mogę nauczyć duszę i przesłanie. Nie by się przeciwstawiać, ale poprzez ich zrozumienie, przez tych, którzy stali się Mesjaszami, aby dawać ze swoich dusz, aby ich elewować. Zadanie stało się łatwe. Szkoła jest tutaj i uczniowie są tutaj w oddaniu. Wtedy nie będzie żadnej walki między tym, co nazywają muzułmanami, a chrześcijanami. Baranek i lew będą jeść i spać w tym samym gnieździe. Chrześcijanie i muzułmanie będą spać i modlić się w meczecie, w tym samym kościele, w imię ich dusz, nie w imię religii, które są używane do tworzenia tak wielu konfliktów, dla korzyści tych, którzy byli hiperaktywnymi dziećmi. Nadszedł czas, czas zmian jest tutaj. I jak powiedziałem, moje życzenie jest moim rozkazem. Jeśli pragniesz ujrzeć pokój, droga pokoju jest wyłożona bardzo wyraźnie. To dusza świadomości zbiorowej. Poprzez dawanie stworzy tą pozycję zmiany. Nic innego. W duszy człowieka nie ma długopisu. Jestem pewien, że po wejściu do społeczności uniwersalnej nigdy nie zobaczysz niczego zapisanego, ale równowagę pól duszy egzystencji. Staraj się być na tyle pokornym, aby nie stać się aroganckim w mocy, którą zrozumiałeś i posiadłeś. Inaczej wpadniesz w tą samą ścieżkę kościoła i meczetu. To jest to, co obiecaliśmy i to właśnie dostarczyliśmy. Musimy zrozumieć działanie duszy. I musimy zrozumieć, że dusza człowieka jest gwiazdą w kosmosie wszechświata. Jeśli porównamy duszę człowieka i tak wielu nas 7 miliardów w jednym zbiorze, Ziemia jest jak galaktyka z tak wieloma gwiazdami. Kiedy patrzymy w głąb wszechświata, widzimy galaktyki z setkami milionów gwiazd. Podobnie jest z planetą Ziemią. Niesie 7 miliardów pięknych gwiazd, które są duszą człowieka. Niesie z sobą duszę tak wielu trylionów zwierząt, roślin i wszystkiego innego. Jeśli więc patrzą ci, którzy nie widzą fizyczności Ziemi i jej zawartości, co widzą? Widzą galaktykę z wielką ilością pięknych, świecących świateł. Każda według swojej siły. Każda zgodnie ze swoją pozycją. Niemowlę ma piękną duszę, podobnie jak staruszek. Dla tych niefizycznych, którzy nie widzą fizycznego wymiaru tej planety, ale widzą siłę pola, jesteśmy gromadami gwiazd. Ludzka rasa, każda pojedyncza dusza, nikt z daleka nie widzi. To jest dusza rybaka, to jest dusza kosmologa, to jest dusza prezydenta. Wszystkie świecą bez względu na fizyczność. To jest magia. Oto, co nowa nauka musi przynieść człowiekowi. Kiedy patrzymy przez naszą duszę, widzimy tylko gwiazdy w innych duszach. I to jest przełom. To jest zrozumienie. Na tym właśnie polegają te wszystkie nauki. Dojście do dojrzałości następnego poziomu, aby zrozumieć daleki kosmos. Wszechświat jest ostrygą dla tych dusz, które służą. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy do wejścia w kosmos. Wtedy człowiek jest gotowy, aby stać się częścią uniwersalnej społeczności, która została obiecana. Nigdy nie obiecywałem wam nieba. Zawsze obiecywałem wam elewację człowieka, aby przyłączył się do rodziny. A teraz macie klucz. To wy musicie otworzyć drzwi, aby zrozumieć, że mogę elewować duszę tych ludzi lub milionów innych dusz, że fizyczne życie na tej planecie zmieni się. Wtedy jestem godny bycia częścią społeczności uniwersalnej, by być, aby służyć, aby się rozwijać, by być tam, aby być częścią, że w cyklu życia wszechświata staje się w byciu częścią, staje się częścią totalności. Kiedy człowiek osiągnie ten punkt, pojawi się nowy wymiar w sile duszy człowieka, który jest poza wyobrażeniem zrozumienia życia fizycznego. To jest brama do otwarcia nowego życia w nowym wymiarze, co jest poza wyobrażeniem tego, co mogliście nazwać nowym początkiem, nowym cyklem, gdzie ten cykl niesie ze sobą źródło stworzenia życia we wszechświecie i unikosie. To jest elewacja duszy, aby służyć. Stała się kluczem. Nie tron życia fizycznego. Czas jest odpowiedni. Nadszedł czas, aby człowiek przeszedł przez ten proces.